So massive response yesterday when I just said I find it really weird that we'll talk about the school lunch crisis, the housing crisis, but we won't talk in this country about our baby killing crisis. Later in the program, we're going to talk to Christine Rankin. She was a former social welfare boss who I think has a really good handle on the realities of the society we've created through our social welfare system. But I just want to give you an example of where our problem is. Page 3, remember I said yesterday, on page 3 of the Dominion Post newspaper, the capital's biggest newspaper, the death of a young baby, under 1 year old, with injuries not consistent with an accident at Foxton Beach. That made one paragraph on the sidebar of page 3 of the paper yesterday. I opened the Post today, again breaking my resolution never to buy the paper again, and on page 3, half the page is dedicated to a headline and story, officials ditch school lunch firms. Last minute bid to stop the school lunch collective from being awarded a 2-year contract. And clearly some lefty public servant inside the Ministry of Education has leaked Kate McIntosh, this journalist, a memo where they said maybe you shouldn't use the firms LaBelle Group and Compass Group to make the school lunches. So now it's all the government ignored recommendations from lefty woke public officials not to use those companies. Oh, woe is me. Isn't this terrible? Doesn't this deserve half a page in our newspaper? But we won't devote half a page to the baby killing crisis in New Zealand. No baby ever died because of a school lunch, I'm pretty sure. No baby ever died by school of a lunch. But when I talk about the misdirection and the misemphasis of our mainstream media, that is exactly what I mean. That is the example, a real-time, real-world example that I think proves my point. We are going to have a debate about this, and I'm thinking now, and we're working on having regular guests to talk about what I'm just going to call the baby killing crisis. So thank you for all of you who really responded to that yesterday, and share, I guess, my absolute outrage at what we're doing in this country. Yes, we've got to get the economy right. Yes, we're paying, and the government yesterday announced upping the subsidy for early childhood education. All great. But while our mainstream media are obsessed with tearing down the centre-right coalition government, they are not pushing that government and all other governments to create a society where we do not kill, and I'll give you the statistic again, and damn it, I'm going to give it to you until it changes and get better. One child murdered every 5 weeks in this country on average. One child murdered every 5 weeks, and the largest cohort by age of those kids are under 1 year old. Babies. So I'm going to call it the baby killing crisis in New Zealand. I'm sick and tired of hearing about the housing crisis or the homelessness crisis. I guess the only thing that comes close is the suicide crisis, or, and then there's the health crisis, and there's the school lunch crisis. No, we've got one crisis. It's called the baby killing crisis. And we need to tell our politicians and our mainstream media that they better focus on it, because it is literally a matter of life and death. Okay, we're going to do it a little bit different today. Talking about death and passing, there are two stories I want to just note the time on that, the opening of that, Isabella. Oh, yeah, we will take the break a little later. I want to talk about two stories that caught my eye in the last 12 hours or so, about two very different, and can I just say my deepest sympathies to the families and connections of both people involved in this. And I think, though, in some ways they share, or they give us the same message. And I know this is going to sound a little bit philosophical. There's a story being carried across many media today about a postie down in Canterbury called David Bullock. and he died at the weekend. He was subject to killed by a car. He was walking on the side of a road in rural Canterbury at the weekend with his son. They were actually Dave Bullock was on his last delivery as a postie on the day of his retirement. He was 78 years old, and they got the delivery van car stuck in a ditch. So he and his son were walking to the nearest farmhouse to get some help or see if they could get it pulled out. And it was near Leaston. Police were called to the intersection of Leaston and Lakes Road and Harts Road at around 7:40 in the evening after this vehicle hit the two pedestrians. And it was his son-in-law he was with. He got serious injuries as well, and our thoughts go out to you and indeed all your family and connections. But media understand it was Mr. Bullock's last day of work before he retired. He was out delivering his final package when his van got stuck in the mud on the side of the road, and after getting out of the vehicle, another car collided with the pair. And it's so sad, isn't it? And you hearing the story, yeah. And I looked at that story and I thought, wow, you do have to live every day like it's your last. You don't know what's coming around the corner. It's such a sad story. Apparently he was well known and liked, and he'd been working for the company for New Zealand Post for about 30 years. He was a keen indoor bowler, and sounds like he was a lovely guy. He got a Queen's Service Medal for contribution to the sport of indoor bowls. And he was well known in indoor bowling around the world. And that is, and I guess, geez, that's sad, because he'd obviously had a great life and been a good bloke in the very Kiwi sense of the word, working to 78, man. And the coverage of it's got a nice picture of him with Dame Cindy Kero getting his QSM. Such a tragic story. And kind of in some ways connected with another story about a 15-year-old who was into drag racing. Her name was Katie. She's from Lower Hutt. And I read actually below the story about the ditching school lunches in the Post this morning. I read that Katie died on Saturday in hospital after catching the flu. Her father Shane has spoken to the media, and he must be grief-stricken. Our hearts go out to you. She was a passionate junior drag racer. Her name was Katie Iti. She'd been unwell for a few days at home, and the family decided to take her in on Saturday because her condition wasn't improving. He says, Dad Shane says it was extremely quick. We were in hospital on Saturday morning. Things were looking up sort of mid-afternoon, and she had her observations. 5 minutes later, she was gone. She was dead. 6:30, 7 o'clock. He hit the emergency button when it all went down. And that is the flu. It is a serious disease, catching the flu. And the family are asking people, good Lord, get the flu shot. Get the flu shot. And I know there are beliefs and passions abroad that all vaccines are bad, and the flu shot might have saved Katie's life. She got influenza B, it was, and she could have been vaccinated against it. Imagine how that family feeling. And that is equally as sad as, the loss of Mr. Bullock, because he had a life that had fulfilled potential. He'd done his stuff. And here this 15, and the picture of her is lovely. She looked like she was really into her drag racing. But there's a life unfulfilled, which tells us again that we need to live a day of life as if it is our last. And we need to also be aware that life is precious, and we need to take care of it. We need to take care of our lives and the lives of the ones we love. And I think we need to take vaccines when they're available and generally efficacious. I'm going to say that. She went to Nainai College, and I'm sure they're grieving as well. And her dad says, get the flu jab. That's the only thing I can think of, to be honest. is just get yourself checked out if you don't feel right. And both those stories of death and passing and loss for communities and families kind of bring me back full circle. They rate lots of coverage, right? Lots of coverage in the newspapers. Why haven't we got that coverage every day when once every 5 weeks the smallest, youngest, most vulnerable lives are snuffed out by the society we've created and certain individuals in it? So, as I said, those I guess 3 stories, but, the Post wants to talk about school lunches because some unionised public servant has leaked a boring memo to a journalist.